I'm going to be finishing the plot for my book in this vlog. I have been working on the plot grid outline for my novel for weeks now. I should have thought about how long, maybe 3 weeks, and it is almost done. I have gone through quite a few passes on it already, and it's time for me to wrap it all up so I can get started on writing. If you're new here, my name is Stephanie and I am writing 2 books. And the book I'm talking about today is my second book, which still doesn't have a name. That's one of the things I want to try and figure out over the next few weeks. I've done a lot of brainstorming and world building, and I've been working on the plot for a while now, and I'm still going at it, but I'm very close to being done. So in my plot grid, which is what I use to outline my books, I have already filled out everything for every chapter. But it was kind of rough and it needed a lot more detail so I could really know what each scene and chapter needed before I start writing it. I have already started this process and I'm about halfway through with my plot grid. So half of my plot grid is done and I just have the other half left. So far, it's been going pretty well. I haven't had any major setbacks. The only thing that I've noticed is that as I'm going through it, I start to think of little ways to improve the story I have or some scenes that I want to insert that are new, because as I'm going through it, I'm like, well, the character really needs to talk about how they feel about this. And I don't really have something in there. So then I go back and add a scene to do that. So it's basically those 2 things that have been happening to me, is adding new scenes that have purpose and just finding little ways to improve the story. Because of that, I do end up going backwards and working on some stuff that I already finished and redoing it and then going back to where I was. So there is a little bit of back and forth, and I suspect that will continue until I get through the second half of my plot grid. But I don't mind doing it because the whole purpose of this plot grid is to get everything planned out before I start writing. So the more I can figure out now, the better. I have quite a few hours at my disposal tonight, and I am going to dedicate it 100% to the plot grid, and I'm hoping I can make a significant amount of progress. I'm kind of hoping for like half of my book. And I'll be honest, I don't really care if I don't meet that goal, because what is most important is filling out the plot grid. So as long as I focus and try my hardest, that's what matters. I'm really excited to get started with this tonight. I've been looking forward to it all week, and I am just really enjoying working on this story anyway, so it's something that I want to do tonight. Tonight will be a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to get started working on my plot grid and to get closer to finishing the plot grid. Last night I did get halfway through the second half of my book. I did about 10 chapters. I did add a chapter, surprisingly. I just felt like there needed to be a break in between these 2 scenes, so I added another chapter. And now I have about 10 chapters left. It's going surprisingly well, I have to say. I'm not really coming across any roadblocks. I'm not getting stuck. In fact, I'm still coming up with lots of ideas to make my book better. And we'll see which ideas stick. I think I have a little too many, but I'll sort through them as I go through the story. I have the rest of the afternoon and the evening to myself to write, and I'm really, I say write, really fill in this plot grid, and I'm really looking forward to it because my plan is to finish filling out my plot grid tonight. I'm pretty sure I can do it if I sit down and focus, and as long as nothing major pops up that I need to fix. One thing I've learned in my years of working on books is you never know when something will pop up and you'll just go, oh crap, I have to change this. It doesn't make sense. Stuff like that happens all the time. And I've learned to just deal with it, but it does slow me down sometimes. I really don't have that much to say about it. I'm going to work on this for the rest of the day and hopefully I finish. Well, not hopefully, I'm pretty sure I will. So I'll talk to you when my plot grid is being finished, filled out, when my plot grid is finished being filled out. Surprisingly enough, my plot grid is complete. It is a complete shock to me because it really only took me like an hour. I was so focused and so in the zone, and it was just like everything came out of me. I had no stopping blocks whatsoever. And honestly, I didn't have to go back and really change anything. I think I had addressed the things that needed changing, and the end of the novel just kind of played itself out. Even though I'm ecstatic that it's done and I am so much closer to being able to write this novel, I still have more work to do. One of the things I love about plot grids is the visualness of it. Visuality, I don't know. And I can lay it out and see where problems are. And so that's what I'm going to do now. Now that I feel like my story is complete, I'm going to put it up on my big monitor over here. That's why I'm at my desk. And I am going to look for specifically big gaps. So cells that are empty, maybe like 4 or 5 cells in a row. So for the character, for example, if my main character is not a good example because since she's the main character, every cell is full. We'll take a side character. If there are 4 or 5 cells empty for that side character, is that side character kind of missing? Or is there really just not a lot of things going on with that side character? I also use this a lot with relationships. If the relationship between 2 people has 4 or 5 cells of blank space, and it's like something happens, and then for 4 or 5 chapters, nothing happens, and then something else happens, is that adequate pacing for my novel? Is that the adequate amount of time to pass between these 2 events, or should something happen in the middle to kind of move things along? That's the kind of stuff I'm going to be working on now, because before I start writing, I want to make sure what I am writing makes sense and things move along, because right now in my head it makes sense, but this allows me to actually see it laid out before I start writing. It'll be really nice to see this on my big monitor because I've only been working on this on my small computer screen, and I'm only able to see like 6 columns at a time. And I was constantly having to scroll over in Excel to look at other columns and fill them in and then scroll back. And here, depending on how small I make the font and if I can still read it, I can have most, if not all, of the columns laid out on one screen. This will really help me see like who's in every chapter, what's happening in every chapter, and the pacing of one thing compared to the pacing of another thing, and how everything is interconnected. I do not know how long this exercise is going to take because it really depends on what I find as I review my plot grid. There could only be 1 or 2 things I need to fix, or there could be a lot of things I need to fix. And it's going to be a surprise as I go through this, but I will probably make a list instead of fixing each one individually. I'll probably make a list and then figure out how to attack everything, because I don't want to change one thing and then see something else and then have to rechange the one thing. So I'd rather have it all in front of me and see how I fix everything at once. I'm really looking forward to this, and I'm going to work on this. It's actually later in the afternoon, so I'm pretty much just going to call it the evening from this point forward that I will be working on the plot grid, and then I will probably end up working on it tomorrow as well. Reviewing this plot grid took a lot longer than I thought it would. I ended up reading through my plot grid for most of the night. As I was going through it, I made a list of everything that needed to change or things I needed to think about, and I ended up with 10 different things. Now that doesn't really sound like a lot, but it is, because that's 10 things I have to figure out how to work into the story or how to change and make better. And then those 10 things do in fact interact with each other. Some of them do anyway. And so it was just, as the list was growing, I was getting more concerned about how much work was still before me. But I did do a really great job of continuing to fill out the plot grid. I added in some more things that I thought were missing and things that I thought would make the scene better. Looking at the plot grid in its entirety really helped me to see where I was missing things and where things maybe didn't quite make sense or needed something to bridge the gap. And so that's what I spent a lot of time doing also, was just filling in all of those random little things to make everything more cohesive. It was so much work that I decided to work through dinner, which was fine because it actually helped me focus. Usually I like to take a break at dinner, but tonight I decided to work through it, and it was kind of nice because I haven't worked through dinner in a very long time. I ended this plot grid with 39 chapters total. I'm still a little unsure about a few chapters. I don't know if I'll end up combining them or making some new scenes to fill them out, but I'm kind of at the point where I just need to start writing it to see if what I'm writing works or if it doesn't. So that will be a problem for another day. But other than that, I closed out the night with my list of things to fix, and that is what I will be working on tomorrow. I'm done with my plot. I can't believe how quickly I was able to make this come together this weekend. So this morning I sat down and went through all of the list of things I needed to fix. It was 10 things. I started early in the morning and I did not leave the couch until everything was done. I was just so determined to finish it. I'm really, really happy with my plot so far. I think it's really fun. I like this story. I'm excited to start writing it sometime soon. And there's only one small place where I'm just a little unsure or concerned. I don't know, concerned is kind of strong about what's going on in the story. It's only 2 chapters, and every time I go through the story, I look at these 2 chapters and I'm just like, something's missing or something's not quite right. And I just haven't been able to figure it out yet. And I think this is one of those situations where I just have to start writing the story to figure out how to fix it or what it needs. And maybe in the process of me writing the story, because it will take a lot of time, I'm talking months here, in that time I can probably figure out how to fix it. I'm also really surprised at how quickly I've been able to plot this book. I basically did it in a little over a month. And that's so shocking to me because with Project Lily, I took 6 months to do everything start to finish. Now, granted, I started working on this a year ago, but it's only been like 1 week here, 2 weeks there. And then when I sat down to really work on this book a little over a month ago is when I honestly did 90% of the work. So I'll just round up and say, I really should calculate it out at some point, but I'm too lazy to do that right now. But I'll say that I spent about 2 months planning and plotting this book. So that's a significant time decrease from Project Lily. I think part of it is I don't have to really experiment anymore with the best way for me to brainstorm and come up with ideas. I just know how to do it. I know what processes work for me. And so I'm not doing as much experimenting and trying out different processes and ways to go about plotting a novel. I think the other thing is kind of like general excitement level. With Project Lily, when I was doing the brainstorming and plotting of it, I'll be honest, this was like a hobby for me, and it wasn't something I was ever thinking about doing for a long period of time. I was just like, hey, I think I want to write a book and I'm going to give it a try. And of course, Project Lily became more serious the longer I worked on it. So I was just kind of working on it in my spare time, I'd say for probably 2 to 3 months before I started taking it really seriously. Now I just take everything writing really seriously, and I was really able to come up with everything in about 2 months. I will also say there is a lot less pressure on me to do everything perfectly this time around because this is my second book. I already know the first draft is going to suck, and I need to plan as much as I can, but it's not going to be perfect. So I'm not going to spend a bunch of time figuring out tons and tons of details because chances are things are going to change. So I've come up with the details I need to write the story, and I know the general sequence of events and what's happening in every scene, and that's going to be good enough for me to start writing this book. So in some also shocking news, the next thing I'm going to do is start writing this book. I know I said a few months ago that I was going to get this book all plotted out and ready to write and then go back to Project Lily. And I have changed my mind, and I'm going to put Project Lily aside for a little bit and go into writing book 2. I'm going to kind of recap this in the next vlog when I talk about starting book 2. But really what this kind of boils down to is I feel like I have so much momentum on this book, and I have a lot of ideas and scenes floating around in my head. And the last thing I want to do is put that aside for a few months to work on another project. Because this is a first draft and I just finished all kind of like the heavy lifting of planning out a whole book, I really want to see this through and get all my ideas out on paper. And I think if I was to switch to a different project at this point, it'd be quite detrimental to this book. So that's the plan moving forward, and I'm really looking forward to writing this book. It's only been a short time that I haven't been writing, and I really, really miss it. As much as I love the world building and the plotting process, it's a lot of fun. I miss my regular writing routine where I sit down and write for 30 minutes or an hour. Like I can sit down and work on brainstorming and plotting, but it's just, to me, it's just not the same. I think I'm going to have a lot of fun writing this book, and it'll be nice to get back in this fun and normal routine for me, and I'm really looking forward to writing a brand new book.